Hey guys, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. I've got some really great, easy, tasty recipes to share with you today. We're going to get started off with a soup recipe. I know it's not necessarily soup season, but this is kind of like a cheeseburger soup, so we're going to go for it. It's a combination of cheeseburger soup and my potato soup recipe. I just kind of combine them all together, and I do it a little bit different each time, but I decided that I was going to try and actually show you the full recipe in something consistent that you can follow. So we're starting off by browning up 1 pound of ground beef, and then I tossed in a half an onion to a whole onion, somewhere around that, depending on the size of your onion and how much onion you like. And we are going to cook the ground beef really well, and once that is just about done, you're going to add in some garlic. I don't know, maybe that's like 3 cloves of garlic. I just took a teaspoon, not a measuring teaspoon, but an eating teaspoon, and grabbed a heaping spoonful. And I've got 2 potatoes that are peeled and halved, and then about 2 to 2.5 cups of diced potatoes, not tomatoes, potatoes, and 4 cups of chicken broth. You could also use beef broth if you wanted. I guess you could use vegetable broth too if you wanted. I kind of switch up based on what I have on hand. And we are going to stir that together, and we're going to bring that to a simmer. But then I remembered I wanted to add in some carrots. So that was probably about 3 to 4 large carrots, just diced up. So I don't know, maybe it came to about a cup of carrots, and then we're going to pop that on. Once that is going nice and good and we've got a nice simmer, of course it's a little more than a simmer, I have about 4 cups, I think that is, of broccoli. Now that was frozen broccoli that I just partially thawed enough so that I could chop it up into smaller pieces, and then we're going to add that in. So obviously the broccoli does not take as long to cook as the carrots, so that's why I put the carrots in first. And we're going to just combine that. I like to add a lot of veggies to my soups. You can alter this based on your preference. We're going to season it really good with some salt, which ended up just being what I had left in my salt shaker. I don't worry too much about salting my foods because to me, I don't mind when people just add salt to their individual serving, but salt it as much as you like. You can also add in some black pepper if you like to cook with black pepper. Now on the back there, I have 5 tablespoons of butter that we are melting down. Once that is melted, we're going to add in a total of 5 tablespoons of flour and whisk that together. I just do a couple tablespoons at a time and just whisk that, get that nice and smooth. And then we're going to add in 2.5 cups of milk. Now, I have done this with regular milk or almond milk. What I did this time was I did about 1.5 cups of almond milk and 1 cup of heavy cream. Almond milk doesn't have a lot of fat in it, but I have used just almond milk before, so that's just kind of what I decided to do here, but 2.5 cups of milk. And then you're going to let that warm through. So while that is warming up, I'm pulling out my halved potatoes. I think I lost one of them in there. I think it kind of fell apart. But I'm pulling that out. At this point, my potatoes and carrots are nice and cooked already. So we're going to pull out the halved potatoes. And this is one of the techniques to thicken the soup. We're going to just mash them up with a fork, add in a little bit of milk, mix that together, and then add that back into the soup. And that will help to just thicken the soup up a little bit. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It really does help my channel out. I greatly appreciate it. It's just one little thing you can do to help me out. So once our milk and butter and flour little area there is nice and warm, we're going to add in 1 3/4 cup of cheddar cheese or Monterey Jack cheese, whatever you want. I didn't measure. I've told you before, I don't measure cheese. It might have been more like 2 cups. In fact, it probably was. And I'm just whisking that together until the cheese is nice and melted, and then we're going to add it into our pot of soup and mix that really well together. And then I'm just adding in some of these bacon bits, real bacon pieces from Aldi. I had a little bit left over in one package, and then I'm adding in another. We're going to mix that together. I reserved just a little bit to put on the top, and this soup is all done. This was really, really good. I definitely recommend this. I'll have it written out below for you. Alright, so this next recipe is an easy steak fried rice. We're going to start by cooking up some rice. I'm doing one cup of brown rice and 2 cups of a liquid, and I used mostly chicken broth, and then I just filled the rest up with water. I was just trying to kind of use what I had on hand. I don't know, some people don't want to use chicken broth if they're cooking with beef. You can switch it up however you want, but I just use what I've got, and this carton was open in the fridge and I didn't want it to go to waste. So we're going to cook that up. That's just, cook up your rice however you want to. And then I just popped it in the fridge to chill. I do think I did this prep work a little bit ahead of time, but it's always better to use older cold rice, but you do what you gotta do. And then I'm also going to do some prep with our meat. So we're going to get our little marinade going. I'm using coconut aminos. You can use soy sauce. The recipe calls for 1/4 cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, and then I added in some minced garlic, and then you could also do pepper if you want. Now, you are supposed to just use half the marinade here. I just made up about half the amount, and then just mix this kind of together later for the rest. I'm just showing you that I also prepped my vegetables at this time. I did this so that then my meat was on the cutting board and I didn't have to clean it to then do the vegetables. So I chopped up my veggies, and I'm using stew meat. You can use, the recipe calls for sirloin steak, but I'm just using stew meat and cutting that into pieces, and we're going to throw that in there to marinate. It says to just let it marinate and rest for about 10 minutes. You can do it longer if you want. I think I did do it longer. I think I did all of this a little bit ahead of time, like I said. And then I had chopped up, the recipe says 1 medium onion. I think I did about half an onion. Do kind of just what you want here. And then I also did carrots. The recipe called for 1 cup of mixed frozen veggies. I just cut up some carrots and thought a little bit of frozen broccoli and chopped that up as well. So once that's done, however far in advance you want to do it, we're going to put some oil in a pan. I used avocado oil and heated that up, and we're just going to add the steak in and cook for about 2 minutes on one side and then about 1 to 2 minutes on the other side, and get that nice and it says brown and caramelized on it. I mainly cooked it through. I need a bigger pan. I need a bigger skillet or something for these recipes, but whatever, I didn't have one. So until I buy myself some new pans, I just worked with what I got. And so again, we're just going to cook that a little bit on each side before we're going to then remove this from the pan. So you could use a slotted spoon. I'm just using a spatula, but we're going to remove the meat, set it to the side. I just wanted to leave all of the juices in there. So once it is out, we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter, and then we are going to saute our onions for about 2 to 3 minutes. They say till the edges start to brown. I'm going to do it a little bit longer because if I'm going to use onions, I like them cooked really well. That's really the only way that I like onions, so that's what I did. Now I'm adding in a little bit more garlic because, like I said earlier, I was supposed to add in half the marinade and the rest of it later. So instead of doing the full marinade later, I'm doing the onions or the garlic now, and I'll just add in some coconut aminos later. So just saute that for a moment. And now I'm adding in my veggies. We're going to add in the carrots and the broccoli, and we're just going to cook that and saute that for a little bit to get them nice and tender. Now we're going to add in the rice. I had a little bit left over from a previous night's dinner, and then the rice that I had just cooked specifically for this that I had chilling in the refrigerator. This is where I realized my skillet was going to be a tight fit, but we're going to make it work. We're going to mix that all together and then add in our meat back in. And we just want to combine that and let that all heat together. And then I'm going to add in a little bit more of the coconut aminos. This would be where you add in the rest of the marinade if you follow it exactly as the recipe says. I didn't veer off too far from this recipe, but I did make a few little changes. And then I just created a little hole in the middle there and put in a couple of scrambled eggs. We're going to cook those up and then combine that in with everything else, toss it all together. And that is it for this dinner. This was really, really good. I love these types of recipes. and I will have the original recipe linked down below for you. So for the next dinner, it's not as much a recipe as it is a meal idea, but we're gonna go with it. We're going to start out by making some taco meat. So I'm cooking up 1 pound of ground beef and adding in some taco seasoning. I prefer to make my own. I've been doing it for a while and I like it. There's no added ingredients, there's no MSG, there's it's just, I don't know. I know what's in it and I actually like the taste better now, but no hate if you want to just do the stuff you buy at the store. But I will have this recipe written out for you below if you want to give that a try. And then I just removed the meat from the heat so it didn't dry it out and overcook it. And my husband is just chopping up a little bit of veggies. We just wanted some lettuce and tomato, and then he also sliced up an avocado for him. I don't prefer avocado. I mean, I'll use it in recipes like in smoothies or some baked goods, that kind of thing, but I don't really like it on my own. Now we're making, I guess we could call them crunch wraps. I don't know if that's what they're supposed to be called. I'm not really sure. But I got some flour tortillas and some cheese. I'm using a combination of Munster cheese and some cheddar cheese. And I didn't feel like getting out the cheese grater, so I'm just trying to thinly slice it. And we're gonna layer in the flour tortillas some cheese and some meat and cook it up in a pan. Now, I should have warmed up my flour tortillas to prevent them from cracking. I did that by the time I got to the last one. What I would recommend is popping them in the microwave, and I usually just take a damp paper towel and lay it on top and put that in the microwave for just a few seconds, and it just keeps it, the paper towel, oh my goodness, the wet paper towel helps keep some moisture in it while warming it up. So no special tricks to this, we're just layering some cheese. I did cheese in the top and bottom just to kind of help keep the tortilla on, I guess, but mine kind of cracked because I needed to warm them up first. And I'm showing you, it kind of, yeah, leaked and exploded here. But we're just going to cook that in the pan with, I think I put butter, I might have done oil, I'm not sure. You don't have to do it for very long at all, and just do it on both sides until it's nice and golden brown. This one came out a little bit prettier. And then I just sliced them in half and served them with some sour cream. I like to add this chili lime seasoning from Trader Joe's with some lettuce and tomato on the side. That's all there is to it. My husband did his totally on the side there with the avocado. Yeah, nothing complicated here. Really good though, super tasty. So the next night we are using the leftover taco meat. I was gonna do nachos, and then I saw Jackie, I think her channel name is Aldi Addict. She also has a channel, Jackie of All Things Domestic, is where I first followed her, but that has turned into a more fasting channel, which I do still watch. And anyways, she mentioned that she was doing tachos, and we decided to do that because I had some in the freezer. So I'm lining the baking sheet with my tater tots, and I just baked them in the oven according to the instructions. And I think it was like 15 minutes, and then you're supposed to toss them. And I actually did decide to flip them each individually over here. So you don't need to do that, but I wanted them golden brown on all the sides. And I kept mine nice and tight because I didn't want my meat and cheese to fall through. So you don't have to do it that way if you don't want. But what I did was cooked them halfway and then took them out, flipped them over, and then we add the meat and cheese. Well, I did cheese, then meat, and a little bit more cheese just to try to hold everything together. And then we popped them back in the oven for the remainder of the time that they needed to cook. And then we topped it with some lettuce and tomato. And I think my husband might have used taco sauce on his. I kind of just kept mine a little bit more plain for these. We always eat our nachos or tachos straight off the pan. They were really, really good, and it was a great way to use some more of the taco meat that we made the night before, and it was really, really good. So I highly recommend it. That is going to do it for today's video. If you liked it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you are new, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys, have a wonderful week.